Yo, yo.
Yo, yo.
Hey, hey.
What's
So
up,
what's
Good
family?
up?
evening. Good evening.
No,
What's
Back
family,
in
happening?
no
the building.
family.
Right.
ETN
So
Media Group.
make America crazy again, huh? When was America ever not crazy?
Word. So
All
yeah, so I
right.
know last week we were having some technical issues, so hopefully we'll get it straight this week, family. So thanks everybody for coming through. And this week we definitely have CEO back in the building once
Hey,
again.
hey. Happy to be here.
And of course, wonderful Kim in the building, and the political goat himself, Chris. Hey, what's up, man?
Black America representing. Want to give a big shout out to my brother.
Sacramento. I gotta
Black
copy
Black.
one of those.
Yeah. You catch him, get them all at Nerd Doc. No N word. It's a black local brand. Sacramento. Big shout out to my brother. No N word. He makes these amazing black. So I want to shout him a shot. Make sure you get him, check him out.
Dope.
All right, well let's get into it with a little housekeeping, Yamoya.
All right, so we have show intro, show outros, voiceover, script copy, 15 and 30-second promos. 48 business day turnaround. Hit us up at etmmediagroup@gmail.com. That's etmmediagroup@gmail.com. And also, since we are here and in the building, let's talk about, we're going to have a pop-up show this Sunday, family, with special guest, the wonderful Angela Nirvana. She goes by the reparationist perspective. So she's going to be going in. For those that do eat meat, she's probably going to go ham. For those that don't eat meat, like myself, she's going to go veggie. So either way, tune in on Sunday, 11 a.m. PST, 328 2021. And we're going to be talking about the double standard, and specifically with may rest in power George Floyd, and may she rest in power Breonna Taylor, and the updates on that.
I look forward to that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's gonna be
that should be
fire.
a good one. All right, yeah, because I know they just finalized the George Floyd jury selection, so we can get into that. I'm hearing. Are you guys hearing? Am I reverby?
Yeah, I do have a.
You
All
good on
right.
my
Well,
end?
the show must go on. So it's been a crazy week. Crazy week. Let's see. First Atlanta, then Boulder. Two mass shootings in a week. The deadly shootings in Boulder, Colorado on Monday, where 10 people were killed, including a police officer, was the second mass shooting in the United States in less than a week. On Tuesday, a gunman shot and killed 8 people, 6 of them women, Asian descent, and at 3 spas in the Atlanta area of Georgia. Until that shooting in Atlanta, it had been a year since there had been a large scale shooting in a public place. In 2018, the year that a gunman killed 17 people and injured 17 others at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, there were 10 mass shootings where 4 or more people were killed in a public setting. The following year, when a gunman targeted Latinos in an El Paso, Texas, killed 22 people, there were 9. So, do we think that's going to be a trend again? These mass shootings?
Oh man, I hope not. I kind of felt like there was much press of around shootings over the last several like months and into 2020, right? Like I feel like there was a big present and wasn't any of these bigger high profile type shootings to talk about, but not be the actual reality, because mass shooting we define as mass are very, very common. Like they happen very, very often. But I haven't heard a lot of like this week has been the first week in a while. I remember. Oh yeah. By the way, we also have a mass shooting problem. It's been a little bit of a since I've like had to. I don't know how about you guys.
I don't know. CEO, you want to go?
I'm on mute. I was just saying, speaking of double standards, yeah, we know the mass shooter in Georgia was a white guy. Apparently, he was having a bad day, according to reports. He was having a bad day. We'll see what happens with him. And then this most recent shooting in Boulder, Colorado, reports finally came out that it was a Muslim guy from Syrian, but he lived mostly in America, is my understanding. But he made it out alive, apprehended, and safely in jail somewhere.
Indeed, he did.
Sorry.
There seems to be a bit of an echo. I was just double checking on that. One thing I just wanted to say, just for definition's sake, so we're all on the same page, a mass shooting is in America. We just specifically define that as 3 or more individuals who were, excluding the shooter, who were injured or killed. So we have had several shootings in America because we know we have no loss of that here. But these 2 mass shootings have popped up. And this last one was particularly interesting because usually, like, there were 10 people who died. Usually with mass shooters, there are a lot of people who were injured, but not a lot who died. But most of the people who were shot died. So to me, that tells me that the individual had some level of military training, or whether it's military or independent, but it seemed like this individual knew what they were doing. And that is just 100% my speculation. I'm still waiting for more information to come out to dig in deeper to that. But it is interesting to me that this individual walked out like in his boxers, which to me is something that I've seen our people do, right? Like, you strip down to make sure that the cops can't say you have a gun on you, right? Like, don't throw something at you or whatever, right? Like, it's even in some of our movies where it's like, yo, no, take your clothes off to make sure if they shoot you, then none of your clothing has bullet holes in it, right? None of, like, it's a defense mechanism to strip down to your underoos, basically. So I was really interested at the fact that this individual, after killing all of these people, was walked out barefoot, just in his boxers. And I'm curious, did he show up that way, or was that a like, hey, I want to be captured alive type thing? And that's just me and my curiosity. I don't know.
Yeah, so you like in points, Kim, your overall point is relevant. The fact that for this guy walked out of there, right? Black people, we and there are I think a bunch of memes now on Facebook and on Twitter and on Instagram, like, hey, isn't this the same place where the young brother got killed by the cop?
Elijah.
Right? Elijah is his first name. What's the brother's last name?
McLean?
I believe it's something like that. And the young brother, beautiful young, right, and was taken away, killed, given some sort of, drugged by the police, right, and he was in police custody, the same, area really where this guy who killed 10 people is able to walk of this crime and similar to the fact of last week we had the people I think at Atlanta, right? Didn't that person or I'm not sure if that person was was live also, but the white folks you can almost t that it physically shoot at the police or have sort of I wish that they will be walked out Dylan Roof is the prime example of this, right? So this is a clear another clear indication of the kind of standard the kind of double dealing, the way that white folks and particularly law enforcement look at us, right? We are more dangerous no matter what the circumstance is, even if we don't have an AR-15 high power rifle and just kill 10 people, you know, you know.
Hey,
Right.
Chris,
And I jumped on a Twitter thread where people were trying to play devil's advocate. Oh, he's limping and bleeding. It looks like he got shot. Well, they didn't shoot to kill because if they shot him in his leg. So they certainly didn't shoot to kill. And I said, he's lucky he got he's getting the opportunity to limp and bleed. Black people don't get that opportunity in these types of situations. So
Yeah. I saw I'm sorry,
let's
go
ask
ahead,
you
Yumalia.
just real quick before we go on. It does look like we're hearing an echo, Chris. Um, now
I don't hear it, but let's see if we can figure.
It definitely sounds like there's an echo. Like when you speak, it sounds like like when you talk, it sounds like you're echoing, like double speaking.
Double talk.
So I don't know if it has something to do maybe with the camera or whatever. But anyway, sorry about that, fam. But we'll get through it. We'll make it happen. But yeah,
we'll
Chris,
get through
go
it. We'll
brother.
get through it. And it looks like Vice President Kamala may have dodged a bullet literally. Let's see what's going on here. A Texas man wanted by police was stopped by the U.S. Secret Service and arrested Wednesday afternoon near the residence of Vice President Kamala Harris. Police said they found a rifle and ammunition in the man's car, which was parked some distance away in a garage in downtown Washington. Paul Murray, 31 of San Antonio, was stopped by Secret Service officers afternoon in the northwest section of Washington and Massachusetts on Massachusetts Avenue, right outside of Naval Observatory, which contains Harris residence. Okay. It looks like he had an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle, 113 rounds of unregistered ammunition, and 530-round magazine. Murray was stopped by Secret Service officers around noon. Okay, I read that in the bullet points, but now looks like Biden is thinking of signing an executive order against assault rifles. Going to be one of his orders of business. So, any thoughts on that? Do you think he was really after Kamala? Should she keep a pair of Chucks handy in case she needs to make a quick getaway?
I'll let you take that one, CL.
Sorry, I feel like my mic wasn't on. I'm curious. I want to know more information. Was he there for her? It says that he was in the vicinity of her house, but in DC, DC is a small space, right? So what else was he in the vicinity of? Are they trying to? I don't know. To be honest, I need more information before I go in. But I'm also not aware of the gun laws in DC. Like, are you allowed to have weapons in your vehicle? Like in California, if I have my permit, items can be in my trunk. It can be in a locked away space. right? So they said that he had this stuff, but was it illegal for him to have it? Did he have the permits? Was he, you know, was he doing something illegal, or did he just happen to get caught up? I don't know. And I've learned not to trust the media. So at least the mainstream media, I'll say that. So I would have more questions than I have answers. So I'm not, at this point, I'm not ready to give a position.
I didn't hear about this. I hadn't heard about it. I don't know if we still getting that, but let me know. But I had this story at all, and gonna be stuff like that happen. Especially when like this time, especially in right, you we're for these capital riots and this threat of this lingering threat of violence. I think the this is we're gonna this kind of stuff been pretty much resident. If somebody gets a little too close, somebody makes on the White House lawn, somebody makes it in the door, so this is kind of common.
Okay. And just back to this on more information, because I did kind of just kind of glean over it. He said something interesting in here. Police found a rifle, large amount of ammunition, after he told them it was parked in a garage several miles away near the Washington Convention Center. Also found in the black Chevy Impala was what police called a large capacity ammunition feeding device. So why park so far away, and why tell the police where you're parked?
That's weird. That's weird. That's super weird.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
why I have a lot
more
of
questions
questions.
than answers, like CEO says
Yeah,
here.
this is missing some stuff, right?
Okay, so in other news, what we have going on with the rescue plan? Looks like Biden is spending 86 million on hotel rooms for migrants as his administration struggles to handle the surge of families and kids trying to come to the U.S. The Biden administration is struggling to address the influx of migrants at the southern border. Now the administration is spending 86 million on hotel rooms to house migrants near the border. Biden has publicly urged migrants not to travel to the U.S., but the surge is expected to grow.
Uh, okay. Let's get into it. This is this the hottest topics out right now. And if you watch the president's daily briefing, Saki, you know that this is like there's more questions right now this than pretty much anything else other than COVID. So there right now, people are pouring water. People are usually crawling across the border. But now there is apparently, and there's some dispute about whether or not it's really a spike, or if this is a crisis, or if this is the most we've seen in 20 years. Different. Uh, I've heard different about this in terms of the raw numbers, right? About the raw number, comparing this, say what was going on when Trump was in office. If you back, there were all these stories back during the Trump about these migrant caravans, right? These big migrant and also about a lot of children coming across, and how we were treating those when they got here, right? First of all, to be an unaccompanied, some of these kids are as young as, I think, like very young, right? 10 years old, 12 years old. These are very young kids, and how we treat them at the border when they get here is gonna be. But you have these facilities that were not really to take in and house children. And then now the Biden administration, well, we have to build new facilities. One, and as an alternative to building new facilities and to opening up these, we also have to find other ways to house these kids. One of those ways is in hotels, right? So there's a lot of people. This is really you got black folks out here, folks on the streets. You got a homeless problem. That's crazy. You in LA. We up here in Sacramento. It's crazy here. I know it's created too. If the state of California has programs, it was supposed to be millions of dollars on housing the homeless in hotels, and we've seen that those programs are of scrutiny because it didn't seem like for at least sometime at least Sacramento, there were a lot of activists really mad about why the hotels weren't opening up when they were supposed to be for homeless folks and our unhoused folks to go to the hotel. So people looking at this, I think right now, in many ways are looking at this like, hey, this is something unfair. You got citizens who are able to come and get these sort of houses. This is a complicated issue, and there's no I think or at least from my perspective, and jump in and let me know what you all think. But there's straightforward answer to this, particularly as it relates to children. These men by themselves. How you come here by yourself, I don't know. You know, but for the kids,
So they're going to the hotel by themselves too?
Probably not. Well, but I mean, who knows? Right? We don't know. And and I'll be part of the political. We want to be careful our political response to this, right? Because there's no good answers here with respect to these unaccompanied children, right? There's no good answers here. Well, I mean, listen, you came here by yourself. You're gonna have your way back by yourself. That's responsible, right? I don't think it was responsible for them to hear a company either, right? Now it's a question of what do we do now that these kids are here, and this is a mess that Biden has hands.
Yeah, I mean, been reading up on it, and I see that it's basically a catch and release situation at the border. They're just catching them and letting them go with no court date in sight. Just letting them out into the world, and we have our own homeless issues here in California, as you mentioned. Let's take a look here. Black people disproportionately homeless in California. Yolanda Harway, who used to be homeless in the Chinatown area of Salinas, has found permanent housing and earned her high school diploma. So that's some good news there. But still, disproportionately, black people are homeless in California here. Let's see. What other information do we have here? Disproportionately homeless in California. A new homeless census carried out nationally shows that Black people are greatly overrepresented in the homeless population across the United States. In Monterey County, the percentage of Black or African American people who are homeless is more than 7 times higher than the country's Black population. It is nearly 6 times higher at the state level. While only 3.5% of people living in Monterey County identify as Black or African American, 25% of the county's homeless population identifies as such, according to the homeless census, also known as the point in time count. And across the state, the U.S. Census shows about 6.5 of Californians identify as Black or African American, but they account for nearly 40% of the state's homeless, according to the Department of Housing and Urban Development report to Congress. Nationally, Black people account for 13.4% of the population, but are 39.8% of the homeless population.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a damn shame. Damn shame. Yeah, other
Wait,
thoughts on this?
there's
Yeah.
but wait, there's more. We're not done yet. A September report from Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, LAHSA, indicates institutional racism plays a large role in the extreme overrepresentation of homelessness of all people of color. Black people are more likely than white people to experience homelessness in the United States, including in Los Angeles County, the report says. The impact of institutional and structural racism in education, criminal justice, housing, employment, healthcare, and access to opportunities cannot be denied. Homelessness is a byproduct of racism in America.
I like that last line. Homeless byproduct of racism in America. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, you know.
And back to the immigrant situation. So that was a, substantial carve out for a very specific group of people, $86 million. And that's one of the problems we run up against with our reparations fight is, they say that you can't have these carve outs, but apparently that only applies to us.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, you can do whatever you want at the federal level. If it's legal, and there's the win there, do it. And I think that's clear. The over the first few months of the Biden administration, whatever has been a priority for the administration, it's even in responding to this, which is I don't know if they had it particularly as a priority, but the response has been prioritized and it's now a priority, right? This border crisis, but if you want to earmark money for your effort, cause you can do it.
Yep.
This is the same. We talked in the first segments about the mass shooting in Boulder, then touch on the Atlanta shooting, which was done by, I believe, a white guy who happened to kill a lot of people of Asian AAPI descent. Right there's a scout now in Axios about 183 organizations calling the Biden administration to $300 million specifically for Asian American you work and program and etc. So that's only very we similar is targeted to the API community, not API community during the Trump administration too. And so the idea that you can't do specifically for particular constituent is nonsense. It's only used against us black folks, specifically black folks who did slavery when you don't really want to do right or you want to do something like so this is something that we want to use, and this is why I was going to the political response here. This is something that we want to use when we're out there making our own case for what we deserve, right? It's not so much, hey, don't do that for those kids, right? Like I'm not gonna sit here, don't put those kids in hotels. Don't or send those kids back without just turn them away at the border. Those are minors, but it's not don't do these good things for these people. It's do these good things now, right? right? Because one, we our citizens have been here for 400 years. We've contributed more, so we're not saying take something away from those people. Hey, add something.
Yeah,
I
I
agree.
mean, I understand. I mean, I get it. And the Native Americans, they also got a specific carve out to the tune of $31 million. Um, let's take a look at what we got. I'm just going to share my screen really quickly here.
Also, Kim, while you're doing that, I put up in the comments if we want to have anybody call in, we could do that. I don't know, Chris or Co, if we wanted to have a call in, if you guys want to put up the lines as well, but we can do that if you guys want to as well, or think.
How you
Yeah.
beauty call?
I wanted
Call,
to
let
so
us know.
I wanted to
I was gonna hear
piggyback.
me talk for an hour.
Uh, sorry, Chris, I'm stepping all over you.
No, you're good, fam.
I just wanted to piggyback off of something that Chris said. My personal like view on it is certainly that I agree that I support the time, energy, and money that needs to go into setting up and handling individuals who are trying to migrate to the US. I don't think it's one or the other. I don't think it's like, hey, Black folks, we need what we need, yo, F everybody else type situation. I fully believe that as the richest country in the universe, right? Well, I shouldn't say the universe, but in America and the world and on Earth right now, we have the ability to do both. And that idea that it's one or the other um, doesn't make sense. We could take a fraction of our military budget, which is upwards of $700 billion, to address these issues at the border. And my personal philosophy is the money doesn't need to be spent at the border, then money needs to be spent at the origin, right? There's a reason why individuals are leaving their country and trying to come to the US, right? Some of that is at the hands of US imperialism because we've gone in and created these situations, and sometimes it's not our fault and we are just in proximity for individuals to come up. But if we spent the money investing in those countries, to stop the need for the migration, then we wouldn't have to worry about it here on our soil, right? That's my own personal, semi-uneducated philosophy on it. But at the same time, as an American citizen, it does make me feel extremely uneasy that we are not taking care of our own citizens before we are taking care of everyone else. And again, I believe that we can do both. But there's huge issues to me that we're not taking care of home.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely not. I still haven't even got my $1,400 stimmy yet, but
Say, what is that? What is
What is
that?
1400
I
gonna do for you?
digress.
Nothing.
So I'm going to share my screen again. We're going to attempt this one more time to see what Black people getting out of this COVID American Rescue Plan. Here, okay. White farmers got 97% of last year's ag bailout. If y'all remember, there were tariffs all over the place with Donald Trump, but the farmers got bailed out. He didn't want them lacking on anything, so he made sure that they got paid. Now some are mad that Black farmers are getting debt relief. So this is part of a $5 billion aid package that was wrapped into a COVID relief bill. The provision didn't land well in some quarters. What happened to equal protection under the law? U.S. Rep. Sam Graves fumed on Facebook. This is wrong and un-American. I'm sure there are a lot of Americans out there that would love to have our tax dollars pay off all their debts. This is targeted to a very select few. Just because you're a certain color, you don't have to pay back money. I don't care if you're purple, black, yellow, white, gray. If you borrow money, you have to pay it back. Tennessee farmer Kelly Griggs tells Fox News last week. She also lamented to hit to um, the hit to taxpayers such as herself. I'm going to have to pay for that. So we'll stop there because I've heard enough. But so it's like they don't want Black people to have anything. But actually, this bill is not specifically targeted at Black people. If you go back, as a matter of fact, I will share the link in the chat in case anybody wants to go back and listen to the videos. But they talk a lot about POC and minorities and disenfranchised people who will have access to this funding. So it's not just for Black people, even though they lead with that. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is, and so there was some, if you remember, there was some news out of the Congress around particular parts of the governing that's been going on over the last few weeks and months. And and then there was this, there was this that quote by Lindsey Graham, about how this is sort of reparations, right? And there was a backlash against Lindsey Graham, Senator Lindsey Graham, for comparing what you were just talking about to reparations. And if we're talking about the larger, though, American Rescue Plan, American Rescue Act, I think it's American Rescue Plan. The again, these are these aren't to target a specific group exclusively, right? So you shouldn't expect that, unless like the explicit intent, and it was talking that it was going to be, specific, targeted exclusively for people over another. Then a different story. Bill is a this bill is a bailout bill, right? Another another bailout bill, and it just so happens that some of the bailout are very some, $1,400 in checks for us, and so there's aid to farmers and all that stuff, but there's also some stuff in there that we expect are going to be that the what we normally call down effect is actually going to happen, and that is particular to the earned income, the child care tax credit, the child credit, which was expanded way this in this bill. And I listened to Brianna Joy Gray over the past couple of weeks, and she kept quoting the statistic that about half of Black children in poverty will be lifted out of poverty based on one part of the American Rescue Plan. And then there's talk now about the next bill that's coming, this infrastructure bill, which is supposed to be something like $3 trillion at the start, at least at the offering, where they're gonna end that child care tax credit to make it last longer. That's good for Black people, right? I don't have one just growing up as one of these Black kids in poverty, but then also alive now and seeing a lot of our Black kids in poverty. I think it was it's between 1 in 3 and 1 in 6 Black kids and Black children live in poverty. I think it's like 1 in 3. Okay, like one. So just keep that in mind. 1 out of every 3 young kids you see, in different families live in poverty. That's unacceptable, right? So that's a part of the, obviously the checks, the unemployment insurance, and then there are other all these other bill too that people don't talk much about, which we're talking about now as it relates to farmers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in the case of the farmers, though, it looks like, and I think the statistic was 7% of the benefits went to white farmers, right? So there's this bill was this huge and massive, or at least partly because it's been massive. There was so much, you know, different moving parts in it. It was black. It was gonna with some parts black people are gonna be not helped as much by the parts, and happens when you have these huge bills, right? This bill is almost $2 trillion, and we're still right now like that money going out the door. It still hasn't been spent, right. Obviously, since it ain't over till I get my stimulus check, right?
But Chris, is that how long is that going to lift anybody out of poverty? I mean, it says it's going to slash 50% poverty. We're talking about $3,600 for children under 6, and then I'm not sure over the age how much they get. But is this a one-time payment? I mean, that's supposed to lift somebody out of poverty.
Yeah, for the year, right? So they're and so the straight answer to your question is for however many people are gonna take advantage of it, right? The numbers are correct. That are correct. Half of and we're talking about poverty here. Income poverty is different from wealth poverty, right? Income poverty, and we measure income poverty is very bad right now, and it's been bad for many years. If you think about how we measure poverty with the officially measure the OPM, it's very bad. It's not a good way to measure poverty, right? All those things considered here in California, we use the poverty measure, the SPM, which is a better measure of like cost of living, right, and what you live in different places. But all consider this is going to be useful and beneficial for those who can take advantage of it for the time that it's in effect for the 1 year, right? And I think it's June, and the way they organize the program in which is different than before. And what I understand is that they are to be giving the money out on a monthly basis, or I believe it's a monthly basis, a yearly basis. I'll double check. But from what I understand, monthly basis. So instead of you getting your one in tax, for however much it is in the beginning of the year, and for the child tax credit, they're gonna be depositing the on a monthly basis to the people who are eligible. That's different, right? That's a different way of doing it. And that's probably why the way they're doing it has a better chance of lifting people out of poverty for at least a year. But you're absolutely right, Kim. What about next year, right? When it's back to the regular. So what's being talked about now is to be extended whatever next bill that Biden does, because Biden has one thing off of his checklist, the big rest check, right? But what's next, right? So what we expect is something on infrastructure and jobs, and that's the $3 trillion price.
Reparations.
Right.
But
Right. That's somewhere lower on his checklist, right now. But
he said he was going to make it a priority, or he came out with a statement not too long ago and said he was going to get started on it now. Did you see that article?
I saw that. That was Cedric Richmond from his who was talking about the recent HR 40 hearing and reparation bill hearings last. And he said something to the effect of Cedric Richmond said something to the effect of, we don't have to, for the commission, we can doing things now. What have they done? A whole lot. If you ask me, it's a whole lot of talk. But I did see that next on the list for Biden, we expect this hearing from news reports is a $3 trillion infrastructure and jobs package, which will have some of what we're talking about in it now, particularly an extension of this child care tax credit, which is going to be good for folks for this 1 year, right? But what about after this year? And it's supposed to extend it this year. We should have been did this though, and like I said, with our income, it's very different than wealth, and wealth is more important than income for different reasons. And the way we measure income is really bad. Use this very old way of saying, okay, if you make more than this, then you're not in poverty. But if you make less than, you are in poverty. And the way we come up with those numbers, problems.
I mean, I've seen even some of the programs rolled out in Sacramento for disadvantaged people, like get your taxes done for free if you make under $54,000. So they're considering, you're the working poor in Sacramento if you make under 54K a year.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying here we use something called the social poverty measure. So it's not poverty measure, which goes back to the '60s. To be honest with you, from what I understand, from some sociology, that OPM, that official poverty measure goes back to the 1950s and 1990s. And we realized here in California specifically that that the cost of living in Sacramento is different than cost of living in San Francisco, than in Modesto, than in San Diego, right, and all of those is different than what it is in Rio and Vegas and wherever else, right? So we use something called mental poverty measure, PM, which is into account different cost of living, right? It takes into account different wages, right, et cetera, et cetera. That's a read on the poverty measure, but it's still income based. I'm for more wealth based, more asset more based measure of poverty. Poverty now does a good look, or what they call a score of asset poverty in different cities across the country. They define asset poverty. So the way we define poverty is right. Do you make more than number we told you? Is the poverty. All right. If you're not in poverty. If you are in poverty, if you make the same, I guess you're on the border, right? Now,
Well, speaking of poverty and wealth, Bernie came out with a tweet earlier this week. We are in a moment in American history where two guys, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, own more wealth than the bottom 40% of people in this country. That level of greed and inequality is not only immoral, it is unsustainable. So according to Bernie, 40% of people in America are broke, in poverty, make less than two men combined.
that's so for folks have something like 90+ of wealth in the country, 93% of the wealth in the country. Folks, especially those of us who descend from the end of slavery, we're looking at no more than 2-3% of the wealth, right? But if you what getting to even something that we have to get to also is that if you side of the side of what we call white, side of what we call black folks, big difference of that where that wealth is, right? Wealth is in the hands of a small group of people, even though there's a lot more white folks, and the most poorest are wealthier than the wealthiest of black folks almost, right? Even in even in our own black community, something like I think 75% of all of our wealth is held by like 10%, like our top 10%. Right. So
All right. All right. And let's just take a quick look at what's going on in California with the Governor Newsom recall effort. What is a recall and how does it work? California is one of 20 states that allows voters to recall their governor. The last time this happened in California was 2003 when Governor Gray Davis was recalled and replaced with Arnold Schwarzenegger. To put a gubernatorial recall on the ballot, organizers must collect signatures equal to 12% of votes cast in the most recent gubernatorial election. That means that they need at least 1,495,709 signatures from registered voters. If a recall qualifies for the ballot, a special recall election will be held. Voters will be asked two questions. Should the elected official be removed from office? If the official is removed from office, who should take their place? If more than 50% of voters answered yes to the first question, Newsom will be recalled and the candidate who wins the most votes will replace him. A governor who is subject to recall cannot run as their own replacement. That means if a majority of Californians vote to recall Newsom, he will be removed from office, even if no replacement candidate receives more than 50% of the votes.
All right, Kim, were you gonna run the video with Newsom, or
Oh, yeah, we do have a video for that. Thanks for reminding me. Good looking.
To force a special election against you. Now, Democrats, including President Biden, are standing by you. I want to know, as a former Californian person, what is this really about? Because I think you've done a pretty damn good job in this gigantic state of keeping it together in circumstances where you didn't get a lot of help. So what is this really about, and are you concerned?
Look, I appreciate that. As you noted correctly, this is the sixth effort, and I've only been in office 25 months. Just in 25 months, there's been 6 efforts to put a recall on the ballot. This one appears to have the requisite signatures. This started before the pandemic. If you look at the list of grievances from the proponents of this campaign, it goes to our values. It's less about me, it's more about California and our values, Democratic Party values, issues related to the browning of California, immigration, issues related to low carbon green growth, our climate policies, issues related to our advancement to end the death penalty or increase the minimum wage or advance pay equity. And so I say that quite literally. That's what's at stake in this election and this recall. Guys like me come and go. At the end of the day, these principles are what we're fighting for. Well, the chief proponent of this, and forgive me, this is just objective truth. The chief proponent of this recall petition supports putting microchips into migrants, into immigrants. The other proponents, the top 10 proponents, the people that are behind this are members of the 3 Percenters, the right-wing militia group, the Proud Boys, supported the insurrection, are folks that quite literally, enthusiastically support QAnon conspiracies. And so that's the origin here. Now, as it relates to the people that signed this petition, it just takes 1/4 of people that supported Donald Trump to put a petition on the ballot, or rather a recall on the ballot. We're one of just 19 states in the country that allows this process, but we have the lowest threshold in America. And of course, you're all very familiar. We had a recall not too many years ago in 2003. And so, Whoopi, it goes to your original question. Am I worried about it? Of course I'm worried about it. The nature of these things, the up or down question, the zero-sum nature of the question is challenging and it's vexing. And so, we're taking it seriously. I have to do my job every single day, but I'm going to fight this thing because I'm going to fight for California values and the things I hold dear, and I think the vast majority of Californians, regardless of their political stripes, hold dear.
Wow.
So 2 questions. Who would you like to see as his replacement? Who are you gonna write in?
I don't think he should go. To be honest with you, I'm real. It's my own personal. I don't think he should. I don't think he should be recalled. I've not been. I have not understood a lot of what the anti-Newsom crowd has been saying. I know there has been a lot of like. So let's just keep it real. Corona has thrown a lot of the politics into a spin, right? So, for example, has there have there could done better managing COVID here in the state? Could I mean the governor himself and his yes could yes we could have done better. Did we good? I think and did he do and did his office do the best that they could? I think the answer to that question is so. Are we today because of the management of COVID that did? I think the answer to that question is yes too. Uh, I don't I'm not I don't get a lot of the anti-Newsom stuff. We knew we had some pain during this. There was not gonna be like we gonna take some pain for the folks for care folks, right, for just regular people to live. Let's look at folks in COVID-19 have been consistently represented in the base of cases, right? So some are like 6 or 7% of the population of the state are consistently around the 4% of the number of cases. However, we are overrepresented consistently in the number of deaths from COVID-19 state. Is like around the eight, nine. I've even seen 10%. Last year. So there's some stuff to talk about with respect to the vaccine. Also, right, the distribution of it. But overall, I think if I had to grade him, I would give him like a plus or B minus to managing like COVID-19. I don't see what the whole recall effort is about. I mean,
Well, he just told you. He just told you in the video. He said that they want somebody who's going to uphold the racist systems. Is what it sounded
yeah,
like
but
to me.
that's him, spinning it, being a optician, right? It's he's gonna do again. I don't know if I'm wrong, but have y'all actually done anything like so that it's he has to go? I don't know.
Well, we had a
Honestly.
comment
Yeah.
earlier from the audience that said something about his hypocrisy, and we know the French laundry debacle. I do as I say, not as I do. So there was some of that,
I
and
think we all did.
being related to Pelosi can't help.
Yeah.
So
Didn't we all slip up once, or more than once or twice, and I wasn't happy, that issue. I think anybody was, and it came at the worst time too, because it was like going into like the surge of the fall, right? It was horrible, and but I think if you look at like actually managing the crisis, it's like California numbers are down, right? We're
Chris, I
vaccine.
think you're breaking up pretty bad.
breaking up a little bit. So
Yeah.
let's take a look at this video. Apparently, COVID is over. The vaccine.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at
so
what's
when-
happening out there in Miami Beach.
Yeah, had to declare a state of emergency here in the city of Miami Beach, Yasmin, in order to enact these fairly extreme measures. And here's what they said about the curfews. The 8 p.m. curfew for the main Art Deco district, or the main party district, if you will, of South Beach, which is behind us, it'll have to be closures of the actual street, closures of the business and the businesses that are operating on the street, such as cafes. People will start to have to clear out of those by 7 p.m. in order to get the businesses closed by 8 p.m. But it means that people who are already staying in hotels here can continue to stay. They just are advised to stay within their hotel. And I don't even know if I should use the word advise, because at this point it is law here in Miami Beach. So they will have to stay within the confines of their hotel grounds. As we know, this is going to last for the next 72 hours. And of course, that 9 p.m. curfew for the causeways, the closure for the causeways, I should say, you'll still have the opening of local traffic being able to get in. It's just for people who do not have hotel reservations down here, and people who do not live down here or have any business down here. And when it comes to what the mayor said about why he felt that the need to institute such extreme measures, listen to what he said about how high the stakes are right now.
Right now, it has become too challenging in the entertainment district, the Art Deco cultural district, whatever you call it, to continue in that way. Too many people are coming here right now, and too many people are coming here with bad intentions. At the end of the day, all the policing in the world isn't going to stop something terrible from happening if it's going to happen. Our city right now in this area has become a tinder, and we cannot have a policy of simply hoping that it's not lit.
Man, yeah, that is nuts, man. It looks like the governor is saying, oh, we're gonna open up Florida, so come on in. But obviously the mayor's saying something different, like, what's going on. So it looks like Florida got some discrepancies, and it's on and popping in Miami.
I'm
Whatever happened.
so confused. There's discrepancies everywhere, and then the kids are going back to school. We have another video, but I know we're up on our hour here. We lost Chris. So just to briefly say, they say that kids can go back to school, and the new social distancing guideline is 3 feet instead of 6 feet. Do we know how they came to that number?
I have no idea. I know.
Yeah, I believe there was one study that suggested 3 feet, and a lot of the media has been like, "Oh, we can do 3 feet. It's perfectly fine."
For the children. Now, maybe we should listen to the
Yeah, let's roll it.
video just to get accurate information here.
Office. Chief Harold.
Thanks, Dion. The first thing I want to say is I want to say our hearts of this community go out to the victim.
Again, and variants are taking hold, just as we've been warned. But let's start on this Friday in the classroom with Stephanie Gusk.
3 feet instead of 6. That's the new CDC guideline for social distancing in schools K through 12.
We now have new information to help us refine our recommendations.
But there are caveats. Everyone still has to wear masks. If community transmission is high, middle and high schoolers should go back to 6 feet apart. And the new recommendation does not apply to teachers and staff, who should still maintain distance from other adults and students. But federal officials say the change should help school districts open classrooms, as long as other safety measures like hand washing and testing are in place.
I'm hopeful that we are turning a corner on this pandemic. Getting our children back to school in-person instruction as soon as possible is a critical first step in doing so.
Yeah, it's funny to me, and what I don't understand is like the different rules and regulations. So now for adults and everybody else, we can still do the 6 feet, but all of a sudden for kids, it's like, oh, we're good with 3 feet with the mask. That makes no science. I mean, scientifically speaking, that just don't make any dang sense. But if they want to roll with it, let them roll with it, because that's what media says. That's what the CDC says, and let them have at it.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you look at how far a person can sneeze in itself, like I'm just saying, like I would think a sneeze goes farther than 3 and 6 feet. But hey, whatever y'all say, whatever regulations, they want to make up or not make up, whatever rules and regulations they decide to put it out there. Hey, that's what they say. And supposedly that's what we as Americans and also the school system are going to go by now.
Yeah,
Well, I guess the mask, that's what the masks are for, the 3 feet sneezing. I mean, that keeps it all contained.
all contained. I do feel like that 3 feet rule for the children, I do personally, I think it's a little BS. But I do know and have read, I should say, that the reason why it's lower for kids is because they transmit it, and they don't catch it as often as adults do, right? So they have a lower contagion rate than adults do. So they can be, it's quote unquote less of a risk for them to be 3 feet within each other versus adults to be 6 feet within each other, which is why they said in the video that you just played, Kim, that teachers and professors or whomever still need to maintain that 6 foot distance, and kids still need to wash their hands and wear masks and yada yada, because even though kids have a lower rate of infection and a lower rate of like severity, once if and when they do get sick, they still have the ability to what do you call it, infect other individuals, right?
Right.
So
I mean, that was the big talking points when, this first thing whole started was, the kids go to grandma, they're
exactly.
asymptomatic. They're these little petri dishes of COVID
Oh,
that can
COVID.
spread it to everyone else, but now they can just get together 3 feet and
Exactly. So I do think it's like, in my opinion, it's like, okay, well, if you are in a vacuum only looking at a specific school, and saying that, hey, these kids who have the lowest rate of infection and the lower rate of transmission, yes, they can be 3 feet away. But if you're looking at it holistically, those kids go home, right? And those kids spend time with grandma. Kids spend time with aunties and uncles and mommies and daddies and everyone else. So the it doesn't fully, it makes sense when you're looking at something in a vacuum. It doesn't make sense when you're looking at it holistically. And for Black specifically, and additionally brown communities, where we tend to live in spaces that are not just your traditional quote unquote mommy, daddy, and child scenario, where we have Nana in the house, we got TT in the house, uncle, whoever in the house, our infection rates are higher, right? The ramifications of a child picking up and carrying a disease goes much further. So we are at higher risk for that, even if they are saying, hey, yeah, your kid's at school in this specific box, can be 3 feet away, and it's totally fine. Yeah, I agree to that, but they leave that box. They go home, they go visit auntie, they go visit uncle, and it's an issue. So it's also when in the chat say, hey, my kids ain't going back to school. I get it. I fully understand that, and I encourage everyone to make a decision that is right for their situation and their needs.
Yeah, I think we should definitely have another show with Dr. Flo and Keedy Wadu come so they can, give us their opinion on, the updates on the vaccines and so forth. I know we're like a minute 10 in, so I know we got some more slides to go through. So I think let's let's move to the next one.
let's go through. Well, I'm just wondering, do these kids have to be vaccinated before they go back to school, or we don't know? We have no idea. We don't know what's going on, do we?
No, as of now, it's not I haven't seen anything that's mandatory for kids to be vaccinated to go back to school. And this is something that I was very curious about because in many situations, your kids have to be vaccinated against polio and chicken pox and many other things in order to be in school. Whereas as adults, I have never been in a situation where I've had to be vaccinated in order to go to be admitted or accept a position. But in college and then grade school, middle school, high school, everything, you have to have a certain amount of vaccinations in order to be accepted and to go to school, and elsewise you'll get kicked out. So as of now, I have not seen anything that says you need the COVID vaccination in order to be present. But I'm curious, and I have been asking that question: is that coming?
Right. Sounds like they're going back to school, so they got to figure something out quick. All right. So in better news, what do we have going on here? You want to tell us about this, Chris?
Yeah, real quick. This is an event that's coming up on, I believe it's March 28th, and that is Sunday. So this Sunday, March 20th at 2 p.m. The National Conference of Negro is honoring Assembly former woman currently California Secretary of State Shirley Weber for work and in honor of, I believe, Women's Month. This month also. We're going to call it Black Women's Month. So this in honor, and as you know, Weber is the author of A12121, is California's reparations force bill. So this is going on Sunday, March 28th. It's it's definitely digital and virtual. You can definitely register if you go to the NW or National Conference and you go Instagram page, you'll find it, and yeah, check it out.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, Shirley Weber, AB 3121. Speaking of, is there any more news on that? Are we still sitting at 2 assigned to the task force, or have there been any more assigned to the task force?
No news yet, but we're expecting more picks as we get closer to the deadline, which is June 1st, right? So June 1st the deadline. We're expecting more picks as we get closer to it, and it's going to be interesting as it relates to this whole effort too. Which we're about about the governor Gavin Newsom have picks on that AB 3121 task force. So it'll be interesting to see how the RICO effort affect those picks and you know how the rest of the task force moves forward.
All right. And in other reparations news, or is this fake reparations news? Evanston. This is an older slide that was circulating. People were not happy about their reparations bill. The community was rejecting it, but it looks like they went ahead with it anyways. So that's happening. It's the first reparations. What are they calling it? Act reparations in the nation. They're touting it as in Evanston, and yeah. Is anybody raising the roof about this one?
It's the first program. Yeah, so it's the first. It's one. So there's different ways to look at it, because if you look at the history of reparations, right, there have been individual cases of Christian and read specific groups. You'll definitely non black groups. If you talk about some black groups, specific cases very limited. You know, handful, maybe more, but not much. Individual cases of reparation happening for specific episodes and specific instances. But this is the first, if not the first reparations program city or government has undertaken, and we say reparations loosely here because I know there who don't want to call this reparations, call it something else. The stuff itself is as reparation, and the advocates are the trouble here is that one there's a backlash about the program is being about the key components of the program from what we and there are right now the city allocated $10 million to the program, which is actually something to pay attention to, because in this case, this allocated money up front and then said it was decide what the different programs are or how to spend it. And one of the things that to spend it on was a portion of it go to home assistance, particularly for those who as a part of a larger package, right? I believe $700,000 or would put to this particular of this overall 10 billion dollar package. There's a lot to watch and a lot to learn from the ever. There is a in that slide that you Kim was I think from that which is in that which has been organizing against the effort, particularly because of the requirements and also because of parts of the program. So this is something that we will keep our eye on as we work through our own here at the here in California, our own reparations task force. And again, there's a hell of a here, but this is first, and over the last week or so, the city of Evansville approved the first round of spending from this big pot.
Yeah, just to be a little bit specific, of that lot of money that they are allotting for or earmarking for reparations, there's 400,000 of it that they are setting aside for housing. So if you specifically or you are a descendant of an individual who was in Evanston between, I believe it's 1919 to 1969, then you can become eligible for $25,000 toward your housing, whether it's a down payment or closing costs or whatever it is. So you literally have had to live there, specifically in that town, or be a descendant of an individual who lived in that town, or be an applicant who experienced housing discrimination after, I think it's 1969, according to the article that I read. So to Chris's point, they are earmarking monies in order to help repay or readdress the disproportionate discrimination that occurred for our people. So I too am very curious to watch and see all of how this develops and where this goes, because it's certainly going to be, while this is helpful, this is certainly not enough. It is generation and generation and generation of disparities as a result of being Black in America. So gaining $25,000 towards housing certainly is not going to be enough, but I agree that it's a step in the right direction.
And if I follow real quick, I'm actually looking at right now. I retweeted this tweet from William Sandy, who is probably the reparations scholar country right now, and he had something about the Evanston and this particular part of the Evanston plan, which is with more recent this house assistance as part of overall $10 million pack. I'm gonna read the tweet really quickly. He says, "These are not direct payments. They are 25,000 allocations that must be used for home payments or restricted to housing. Median home price in Evanston is $430,000. Down payment must be 20% of the price, right? So 25,000, which is what you would get from this program, is only 6% of the median price. So you're less than half what you would need for a typical here. This is
That's
pay
disconcerting.
attention to, right? It's not just a matter of what you do with the what you with it. It's a matter of how much put behind what you want, and is it enough right now? You say all right, well, people are that 6 people would have to ordinarily come up with themselves. True, but it's also true that it's not even half of what you need for the down payment. So this is
Right.
something
And that was another argument that they were making about it being reparations, because it's not cash payment. It's money going directly back to the banks and the lenders. So they're the ones that are going to benefit from it. Of course, you get housing out of that if you can, like you said, come up with the other 14% of the down payment on your own. But that was one of the objections, is that this money is just going back to the institutions that were responsible for the discrimination in the first place. And I jumped on the Evanston Zoom town hall that they had before they took the vote, and they were, asking people what their thoughts are, and overwhelmingly people were just against it being called reparations. They were like, call it what you want. Just don't call it reparations. Call it some kind of a housing subsidy. And I even jumped in and made a comment and said, it's not reparations. Why not just call it something else? And they responded to me and they were like, well, like what? Maybe restitution? And I was like, yeah, maybe real estate restitution relief fund, something like that, anything but reparations. And one woman spoke up and she said, a girl came up to her and she was like, oh, you're from Evanston. You're so lucky. You guys are getting reparations. I wish I was out there, to get part of that $25,000. And then the lady was like, I'm not getting no $25,000. And she was like, I don't know nobody who is getting $25,000. So it's just misleading to other people who maybe aren't as educated on reparations, and they see these headlines and they think it's reparations when it's not.
Yeah, I think we should have the fam come out, see if we can invite somebody out from the Illinois area, out in Chicago, because I think I'd like to definitely get their opinion since they're out there. And I know, Chris, we got fam out there, right?
We do.
Anyone getting that $25,000? And also, it's only going to like 15 people that nobody knows who these 15 people are. Wow. And I'm at least be transparent about who the 15 people are who are getting this $25,000
that's not
restitution package.
Yeah. Ugh. That's I don't know. I have reservations about how quote unquote reparations packages are sent out. In the sense of, like, if we go back and we look at the farmers in America who were gifted land, who were gifted lessons on how to grow land, who were gifted subsidies in order to make sure that their farms would come to fruition, the way in which they spend their money as a result of that is never under question, right? But when we talk about reparations, when we talk about, hey, the fact that we are addressing the fact that only white people were given access to that, when we talk about the Black folks, it's like, okay, we're going to fix that problem, but the only way you can fix it is if you do exactly what we're asking. We have all of your information and we're tracking everything that you do. And that is where I significantly have an issue. Like even now with the stimulus checks, where people are making jokes about what Black people are going to do with that money. Like if you want to go spend that money on weed, you want to go spend that money on alcohol, you want to go spend that money on whatever you want to spend that money on, go spend that money however you want. Right? We only look at line items of a budget when it comes to poor people. We don't care what rich people do with their money. We don't ask them when they're getting subsidies from the government, when they're getting kickbacks and such. We never look at their bottom line, but we always want to scrutinize and say, hey, y'all folks who are getting redress or who are getting, a boost, where's your bottom line? What are you spending that money on? And let me judge you based on what you are doing with that money. Although every other American is doing the exact same thing,
Right.
regardless of where you are in the economic bracket. So I do have an issue with reparations that come out and say, for instance, here, where they're saying, hey, you can have 25 grand. No, that's not even enough to put down a down payment. But you can only get that 25 grand if you have done X, Y, and Z and fill out all of this paperwork. And it can only and specifically be used for this manner, because that 25 grand going to a house is great for someone else who has that other 25 grand or whatever the rest is that's needed to get to that 20%. That's great for them if they have it. But for those folks who are still descendants of individuals who experience racism, who experience like redlining and such in those areas, that 25 grand could go for paying for their kid to go to school. It could go for food. It could go for clothes. It could go for Jordans. Who cares? Right? But when redress and when they want to talk about reparations, it's only specifically in a way that the government wants you to spend your money.
Right. And like I
Right?
said, it's
We
going
don't
back
have
to the
autonomy.
institutions. It's
Mm-hmm.
going back to the institutions that started the problem. And sitting on this town hall meeting, the vibe that I got from it was that Evanston was just like, it was kind of like a clout thing. Oh, we're going to be the first to do this, and if we're the first to do this, we have to do it right. The world is watching. Everybody's going to be following our blueprint. Blah 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 blah. And everybody's like, I hope not, because y'all really ain't doing that much. And what I did like about the Evanston plan is because they're taking taxes from the marijuana industry. But apparently they only have one dispensary. That's why the number is so low. But if like for instance, if California did use that as a blueprint, I wouldn't be opposed if some of the marijuana money came back to the reparations pot.
I support that in part, right? Because I believe California needs to pay reparations in the same way that many other states and as a whole the U.S. Federal government needs to pay reparations. But the only issue that I have is one that you have just highlighted. In states where they have one dispensary or a limited amount of dispensaries, then you are by default limiting the amount of money that is available for reparations or for redressing, right? And that shouldn't be the case. The amount of reparations that are due or the amount that is due. Where you pull it from, that's on you, right? So if the marijuana industry only makes 50% of what is due, then you need to figure out where else you're going to pay that. We're going to pull that money from, rather than tying reparations specifically to one industry and whatever they make is what you get, right? It should be done in reverse. What is due to these individuals, and then go figure out where you're going to get that money from rather than the other way around.
Makes sense to me. All right, fam. So we're minute 30 in, and I think we got about two more two more stories I want to get through. So I'll probably take Flint. We didn't talk about Flint yet, have we?
No, we didn't
Okay, so
talk about Flint.
let's jump on a Flint real quick, see what the fam's out there doing. So it looks like Flint's water may have gotten better out there. I don't know if anybody has any family out in Flint. Maybe we'll reach out to the fam and see what's going on out in the Great Land of Michigan. So almost since 2017, citywide lead levels have been within the range the federal government deemed safe. But nearly 4 years after a court order required the replacement of lead pipes in Flint's water system, that work is only just now approaching completion. Just to remind everybody, this article is written January 19th, 2021. According to the city of Flint, 9,912 lead pipes had been removed and replaced as of December 25th, 2020. That's far fewer than the estimated 18,000 lead pipes in the city's entire water system. But that number may include homes that are not currently occupied or are not having active water accounts. According to Eric Schwartz, a professor at the University of Michigan who helped develop the predictive model the city has used to locate all of the lead, there may now be only a few hundred lead pipes that need to be replaced in order to fulfill the terms of the 2017 settlement that put the state on the hook for the $87 million undertaking. The predictive model Schwartz developed with machine learning expert Jacob Abernathy has had an 80% success rate finding lead. There are still somehow locations the city positively knows have lead pipes that have yet to be removed, and other locations that have a high probability of having them. But as Flint comes closer and closer to digging out that last in-use lead pipe, the excavations are focusing on less and less probable sites, where the pipes are more difficult to find, making for a slower finish to the race. And even when that last lead pipe is replaced, it's an open question whether Flint residents, many of whom, out of justifiable suspicion, will rely almost exclusively on bottled water, will ever again trust their water supply. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on out in Flint, fam. So hopefully, family out there is able to get clean water for real. Supposedly they have clean water, but I did read another article saying that people are still, trying to get those bottled waters. What do you guys think about that?
So they fixed some of the pipes, but then they say that some of the pipes haven't been fixed, that may be in areas that aren't being used. And if you know what, if I was a Flint resident, I wouldn't trust them either.
Yeah.
Same. There's no way that I would. Not when, historically speaking, the local government has proven that they will literally poison the water. There's no way I would trust it, not unless I had meter. I not even trust it. Like, I would have what do you call it? Those gadgets to put in the water to test the water myself before I drank it. And I am quite curious and interested in the reparations that need to come from all of the individuals who lived in Flint, right? Because we understand that lead poisoning isn't like, oh, hey, it's not like food poisoning. You're down for a bit and then you pop up and you're fine, 48 hours later. Lead poisoning will affect the next generation, right? It carries on. It affects your brain activity. It affects your education levels. Like, it is rampant, and quite known, the effects of lead poisoning. So I'm quite curious how the fact that none of these folks who made the decision to actively do this are not behind bars. Makes no sense to me. 2, as a resident, I would not trust the water at all. And 3, I'm interested in seeing what comes of this and the next generation, and then generation to follow after that.
Have there been any lawsuits? I mean, you said reparations, but I mean, have there been any class action lawsuits or something filed? I mean, certainly
I haven't looked
that would
into
be an
it,
open
but I
shut
would
case.
imagine that there would have to be class action lawsuits going on. I've seen 4 years ago when this stuff like blew up. Um, we were watching videos of how poison the water was, how ridiculous in such it was. And I also want to make light of the fact, not make light, but I also want to call attention to the fact that there are myriads of Flints throughout the US that are not getting the attention that Flint is getting. So this poisoning of the water, this not taking care of the people, specifically poor, specifically Black and brown, is quite rampant. This is nothing new. Um, I feel like I forgot your question, but in the end, I wouldn't trust them. If I was in Flint, I would not trust them at all.
Yeah. Well, I was saying, does this need to be a reparations issue, or
Oh,
could this just be handled with lawsuits and take care of the people that were harmed that way? And I hear what you're saying about other water systems. I don't even drink the water out here in Sacramento. I'm just strictly bottled water. That's what we gonna do.
yeah, and that's a privilege, that one that I enjoy myself. Wherever I visit a city, or if ever I'm in a space where it is predominantly Black, predominantly poor, I do not drink the water. And that is I don't drink the water directly from the tap, right? And that is specifically um, my distrust of the government, as a result of history. We are typically the ones who were poisoned. We are typically the ones who have like all types of stuff in our water and our foods, and it's like, meh, oh well, they'll figure it out.
Right. And it was
So I
also
don't trust
sus
it.
in the article. The article mentioned that the government, that it's safe per government standards or whatever. It's like,
Yeah, that's why we gotta talk to the people, to see what's kind of going on out there. Because
yeah,
from the people's point of view, they may be like, "Yeah, we good, we tossing it up," you know what I mean?
like
But
Obama.
That's
tossing
some
it up like Obama, isn't this water good?
some bull crap. And
But
we
yeah,
all know it. That was a dog and pony show. He
yeah, but
really drank that water to try and convince folks, knowing full well there's no way that the president of the United States didn't have up to date and accurate information that water wasn't safe.
yeah, yeah, it's crazy. And so I think we got one more slide here, and I think, unless you guys want to talk about anything else, so the great queen herself, the goddess, may she rest in power, Aretha Franklin. It looks like her family does not support the new Genius biopic, and say series is extremely disrespectful. Aretha Franklin's family have spoken of the disrespect they feel towards a new biopic depicting the life of the star. The National Geographic produced series Genius premiered yesterday, March 21st, and sees actress Cynthia Erivo play the late soul singer. Yeah, family. So, it looks like, once again, I think what's her name again?
Cynthia
Cynthia
Erivo.
Erivo is, I don't think she's quote unquote native Black, right? Is
She's
she?
not.
She's Black immigrant, right? And
Hmm.
she also played, didn't she play
Harriet.
Harriet
Harriet.
Tubman, one of our other great ancestors? I haven't
Right.
seen
Yeah.
it yet, so I don't know. And I haven't even seen this Genius. Anybody in comments in the chat, have you seen this Genius, CO or Kim?
I have not.
No.
It's intentional, right? Because I
Yeah, it's
do.
intentional, especially on this one. If the family comes out and says they don't want it, I don't even know how it's allowed to proceed. I mean, I guess they have permission from the estate at some point, I read somewhere, but that person was no longer in the picture by the time they went to put the movie together, and they didn't reach out to any of the family, even though the family tried to get in touch with them and said, hey, we want to talk about this. So how can this even happen? happen if the family says we don't want it?
That all has to do with rights, and who license it and all that type of stuff. But um, I intentionally haven't seen this because I do not support the new blackface. Aretha is homegrown, right? So her story is epic. She just like Harriet, like more than Harriet, in my opinion. Um, Excuse me, not more than Harriet. Harriet more than Aretha was like one of our leaders, like one of our like type
Yeah,
folks.
icons, man,
Yeah,
icons.
our icons. And I am disturbed at the like notion that simply because someone else has melanin in their skin that they can play us. And I'm not okay with that. I'm not at all okay with that. So you take any other actor from London without pigmentation in their skin, everyone would be up in arms if they were playing Aretha, if they were playing Harriet. But the simple fact that these individuals have pigmentation, it's like, oh yeah, it's fine. And like I just like many other people refer to it as the new black face, right? Our like as ADOS, when you're telling our stories in our media, in our country, in our like entertainment sectors, it should be played by us, right? I'm not one of those individuals at all who are like, oh hey, if you're just playing a sci-fi film, like it has to be white people, it has to be like, no, it's sci-fi, right? But when you're telling a biopic, when you are connecting that like reality to entertainment, it needs to be held specifically, and those roles need to be played by us. And this role wasn't. Just like Harriet wasn't, just like and the Black Messiah wasn't, like not the Black Messiah, but
Yeah,
what's the
Judas
name?
and the Black Messiah.
Judah and the
Hmm.
Black Messiah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
Like we should be playing, we're not even able to play our own selves, and I have a huge issue with that. I
yeah,
have a huge issue.
I think the only, at least within the last past 5 years, that I'm aware, and I could be wrong, that um, was Nate Parker. He played,
Nat Turner.
So I think, and I think Peace Out and May Rest in Power Chadwick Boseman. I think he did play
Hmm.
James Brown.
Yeah, he
I
did.
think he did play
And he
James
killed
Brown.
it in that film. He
Yeah,
That was
killed
I
it in
think
that
badass.
he
film.
did.
Yeah.
Right? It's there's a difference in like the grounding and the connection to the character. And granted, like I'm an individual, my undergraduate degree is in theater arts. So that is where my like learned quote unquote ness began. So that connection to the character, that's sitting in the realness and pulling on your own, that technique of pulling on your own experiences in order to connect yourself with the character at hand, is something that I wholeheartedly subscribe to, and strictly I'm sure because of my upbringing and my education. But it shows clearly when these individuals don't have that connection, and simply having pigmentation in your skin does not mean that you are us. It does not mean that you fully connect and understand. And like I said, have no issues with any of these actors playing any other roles, sci-fi, like whatever it is, right? But when you were telling our stories, it should be played specifically by us. And I would, anyone I feel like would fight tooth and nail, like if they tried to put a Korean person in this role, right? Or if
Yeah.
they tried to put like anyone else in this role, it doesn't make
Yeah, I mean,
sense.
I even saw something about Lupia. She was playing a African from a different tribe, and the other tribe got mad and said, "No, the linguistics aren't going to be the same. She doesn't, speak the language, even though she's African. She was from a different tribe, and they had a problem with it. So we're talking about a whole different lineage."
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
Peace Out.
I I'm sorry. Go ahead, Yumoya.
Yeah, I was just putting up the comment here from Tony Love. Yeah, peace out,
Yeah,
Hudson.
Jennifer Hudson should have played that role hands down.
Easily.
Easily. Like there's
Yeah.
so many, right? And I reject that idea that we have to pull London black actors in order to play roles here in America. I completely reject that idea. I have been on Broadway, I have been off Broadway, I have been in the film industry, I've been all over the place. There is like an overwhelming presence of natural black talent that you could just throw a freaking rock and hit 12 people who would be able to play these roles and who would kill it, you know? So I reject that idea of like, oh, well, they're training and oh, nah, these folks got MFAs from Cal Arts and NYU and University of Illinois, everywhere you can think of, or just homegrown talent, So it don't sit right in my chest. It don't sit right in my heart. And it is something that I would love for more people to push back against. But like I say, like many other people say, it's the new blackface, right? They don't have to put on the makeup, but they get to look and act like us, even though they aren't us.
Right. And we can protest with our pocketbooks, but now that the movie theaters are closed, it's harder to see what box office numbers are and what kind of interest these movies are generating. But that's one way we can protest is just by not watching them. They'll get the hint.
Yeah, I think well, speaking of theaters, just a real quick update. I think Cinemark, from what I've heard from a report, is starting to open up the theaters nationwide up to, I think, maybe 25%. Don't quote me on that. So the movie theaters are open. Yep. Yeah, they
Ooh,
are.
you want to go see the Aretha movie? No.
Oh yeah, let's go.
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm
I think
good.
I'm good on
Yeah,
that one.
I'm cool anyways on the movie theater. I'm not trying to be in no
I know. I feel like
enclosed
they need to revamp movie
situation for
theaters.
2 hours. Nah.
I feel like
With a
at this
mask on, you
I
can't
know,
even enjoy your
in your
popcorn.
popcorn with the mask.
I feel like at this point, I know I'm Southern California at this or whatever, but this may be a specific thing to LA. But if you go to Universal Studios and you go on the Simpsons ride, you go into a room and it's like 6 people, you get in a cart and then you like lift up and everybody watches the same exact screen. Everyone has the same exact experience, but it's multiple different cars. And I feel like honestly at this point, given COVID and just the idea that a virus can do this to humans, we need to revamp the way that we attend films. We need to revamp the way that like public spaces are created. And so that idea of like, oh well, let's just get back to the norm doesn't sit well with me. But I really think theaters need to be completely redesigned, and it should be more of an intimate space, and like you can create spaces like up to 20 people, up to 15, up to 10, or however you want, where hey, Kim, Yamoya, Chris, and two each of our friends, like, oh, y'all want to go to the movies? All right, let's go do it. And we have our own private space. We get to see the film, and then we can leave. Right? It
Yeah,
can be
that could be doable.
completely right in the same way that you have karaoke spaces like that. Right? Go to any Chinatown anywhere and you can hop into a karaoke space that is specifically for you and your friends. Big screen, y'all can order drinks, order food, do what y'all want, and then leave. And it's safer. It's just it's time to evolve the way that we look at public spaces rather than just being
Right.
like, oh, let's get back to what happened. Let's get back to
I
what
know the
was.
drive-through became very popular out here again when the
Mhm.
COVID situation hit. Yeah. Yeah, we even put together like a film festival. Usually it's at our historic Crest Theater in downtown Sacramento, seats 900 people. That wasn't going to happen during COVID, obviously. But we tried to see if we could get in over at the drive-in, but They were charging big dollars because they said business was through the roof.
Booming, I'm sure.
Yeah. So,
All right, I
all
think
right.
that's
Well,
it,
one
man.
day.
Unless we got anything else.
It's a
No.
2-hour show.
Well, I don't think we've ever done 2 hours or close to 2 hours. I know we've done an hour and a half, for sure. And Chris, peace out to Chris. I don't know, Chris. We gonna get Chris back. We gonna get Chris back. We gonna get him right.
We're gonna get him some equipment. We're gonna get him because we need him, man. His voice is powerful,
I know, man. And he be going in. He be like, "Oh yeah," and and he's
just
like,
make me shut up and just listen.
and I'd be like, "I want to sit back," but he be like, er." So yeah, so it's all good, fam. I think that's about it. Is there anything else, Co or Kim, that we gotta?
I think that's it. So we'll
All right.
see y'all back here on Sunday.
Yes, Sunday at
about
11.
what else is going on in the world. Yeah. All right. Well, until next time.
Stay black.